The airport was louder than her thoughts. Maryam shifted her baby higher against her chest as the boarding announcement echoed through the terminal. She hadn't slept in almost 2 days. Her son, Adam, barely 6 months old, was teething and restless. She had sold her last gold bracelet to afford this one-way ticket. She wasn't running away. She was running toward hope. The job offer in another city was small, just a housekeeping position at a hotel, but it was stability. And stability was something she hadn't known since Adam's father walked out before he was even born. When they boarded, Maryam kept her head down. She felt the eyes. A young woman alone, worn sandals, faded dress, crying baby. She reached her seat, 22B, middle seat. Of course, by the window sat an elderly woman who smiled kindly. On the aisle sat a man in a tailored navy suit, scrolling through emails on a sleek tablet. His watch alone probably cost more than her entire life savings. He didn't look up. Maryam gently sat down, apologizing under her breath as Adam fussed. The elderly woman cooed softly at the baby. The man on the aisle didn't react. As the plane lifted into the sky, Adam's cries grew louder. Maryam tried everything, rocking him, humming, whispering apologies to passengers around her. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly, tears threatening to fall. "He's just tired." The man beside her sighed. Not dramatically, not angrily, just tired. Then something unexpected happened. He closed his tablet. "May I?" he asked calmly. Maryam blinked. I'm sorry. May I hold him? You look exhausted." Her first instinct was to refuse. Pride, fear, distrust. But her arms were trembling. She nodded slowly. The man carefully took Adam. He held the baby with surprising gentleness, adjusting him naturally against his chest as if he'd done it before. Adam's cries softened. The man leaned back in his seat. And Adam fell asleep. Within minutes, the cabin grew quiet again. Maryam stared in disbelief. "How did you?" "Babies can feel tension," he said softly. "You're carrying too much." She didn't know why, but those words broke something inside her. The tears she'd been holding spilled silently. "Thank you," she whispered. "You should rest," he replied. "I won't let him fall." She hesitated, but exhaustion won. Her head tilted, slowly, accidentally. It landed on his shoulder. She meant to move. She really did, but sleep claimed her. Passengers glanced over, whispering. The sight was unusual. A powerful-looking businessman holding a sleeping baby, and a poor young mother resting against him like she belonged there. The elderly woman by the window smiled knowingly. The man didn't move. He didn't wake her. He simply adjusted slightly so her head rested more comfortably. For the first time in months, Maryam slept without fear. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she felt was warmth. Not the stale, recycled air of the airplane cabin. Not the thin airline blanket barely covering her and her baby. Warmth. Her cheek was resting against something firm and steady. A shoulder. She blinked rapidly, heart racing as memory rushed back. She had boarded the flight trembling, clutching her 6-month-old son, Noah, terrified of disturbing the well-dressed man seated beside her in first class, a seat she had only received because of a last-minute overbooking in economy. She remembered apologizing over and over as Noah cried during takeoff. She remembered exhaustion swallowing her whole. And now she was leaning on him. On the CEO. She had recognized him from a magazine cover weeks ago while waiting in a clinic, Daniel Hayes, founder of Hayes Global Technologies. A billionaire. A man who owned skyscrapers. A man who spoke at conferences with presidents. And she was just a girl with a baby and a suitcase that barely zipped shut. She shot upright. "I'm so sorry," she whispered urgently, pulling away so quickly that Noah stirred in her arms. "I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry, sir." But Daniel didn't look annoyed. He didn't look angry. He looked calm. "You needed sleep," he said quietly. His voice was low, steady, almost gentle. "You've been awake since before boarding," he added. Her breath caught. "How do you know?" "You were pacing near gate 14, he replied. Trying to soothe him. She froze. He had noticed her. She lowered her eyes, embarrassed. "I didn't want to bother anyone." "You didn't," he said. A flight attendant approached, smiling warmly at Daniel. "Mr. Hayes, would you like your usual espresso?" Her heart skipped. Mr. Hayes. It really was him. He glanced at the attendant. "Not right now. Could you bring her some water instead?" The attendant nodded without hesitation. Her throat tightened. "You didn't have to do that," she murmured. He looked at Noah, who was now blinking sleepily, tiny fingers curled around his mother's sweater. Yes, Daniel said softly. I did. Silence settled between them, not awkward, just quiet. Finally, he asked, where are you headed? New York, she replied carefully. I have a job interview. He raised an eyebrow slightly. She hesitated. It felt foolish saying it aloud. Hayes Global Technologies. For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Is that so? She nodded quickly. For a junior administrative assistant position. I know it's not much, but I studied business administration before I had him. Her voice faltered. Daniel didn't press. Instead, he asked, and who's watching him during the interview? Her face paled. I don't know yet. He leaned back slightly. You flew here without childcare arranged. Tears threatened to spill. I didn't have a choice. If I miss this opportunity, I don't know how we'll pay rent next month. The vulnerability in her voice was raw, unfiltered. Daniel looked at her for a long moment, not with pity. With assessment, and something else. Respect. You shouldn't apologize for fighting for your child, he said finally. She swallowed hard. The rest of the flight passed in soft conversation. She learned he rarely slept on planes. That he built his company from a rented garage office. That he valued determination more than degrees. He learned she worked 2 part-time jobs. That she studied at night while Noah slept. That she hadn't asked his father for help, because there was no father willing to help. When the plane landed, passengers began to stand. She expected that to be the end of it. A strange, brief encounter she would one day tell Noah about. But as she struggled to lift her worn suitcase from the overhead bin, Daniel stood. Allow me. He retrieved it effortlessly. Thank you, she whispered. They walked off the plane together. And then it happened. 2 men in suits approached Daniel immediately. Sir, the car is ready. She froze. Of course it was. He turned to her. What time is your interview? 10:30, she said. He checked his watch. It's 9. Her stomach twisted. I'll be fine, she rushed. I'll find a cafe or something. He studied her. Then he did something that made the security men glance at each other in confusion. Come with me. Her eyes widened. I can't possibly. You can, he said calmly. My building is where your interview is. Her mind raced. This isn't appropriate, she whispered. What if someone sees? He almost smiled. They will. Her heart pounded as she followed him outside. A sleek black car waited. The driver opened the door. She hesitated only a second before climbing in, clutching Noah close. The ride was silent, but not tense. She stared out the window at towering skyscrapers, at a world she had only seen on screens. Finally, they stopped in front of a massive glass building bearing the silver letters. Hayes Global. Her throat went dry. Inside, employees straightened when Daniel entered. Good morning, sir. Morning, Mr. Hayes. He walked with quiet authority, but without arrogance. She felt invisible beside him, until the receptionist looked at her with curiosity. Sir, the receptionist asked. Daniel stopped. This is Miss. He looked at her. Emily, she supplied softly. Miss Emily Carter, he continued. She has a 10:30 interview. The receptionist typed quickly. Yes, I see her here. Daniel nodded. And arrange a private conference room for her and her son. The receptionist blinked. Sir, you heard me. Yes, sir. Emily's knees nearly gave out. You don't have to do this, she whispered urgently. I know, he replied. They stepped into the elevator. When the doors closed, she finally asked, why? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at Noah, who was chewing on his tiny fist. My mother raised me alone, he said quietly. She brought me to job interviews when she had no sitter. Most people turned her away. Her chest tightened. She didn't give up, he continued. And neither are you. The elevator doors opened. The top floor. His floor. Wait here, he said gently. Your interview panel will arrive shortly. She sat down, heart pounding so loudly she feared the entire building could hear it. Minutes later, 3 executives entered. They looked surprised to see her. And even more surprised to see Noah. But no one said a word about it. The interview began. She answered every question honestly. About her education, about her work ethic, about time management with a child. At one point, Noah whimpered. Her face flushed. I'm so sorry. It's fine, one interviewer said quickly. She continued, confident, clear, brilliant. When it ended, she stood. Thank you for the opportunity. They nodded. We'll be in touch. She stepped out, heart heavy. She had done her best. That would have to be enough. Daniel was standing near the windows overlooking the city. Well, He asked without turning. I think it went okay, she replied softly. He turned. Good. Her fingers trembled. Thank you for everything. I'll never forget this. She shifted Noah higher on her hip. I should go. Emily. She paused. Yes. He walked toward her slowly. You won't be getting a call. Her heart shattered. Oh, she whispered. She forced a smile. It's all right. I understand. It was a long shot. He stopped in front of her. You won't be getting a call, he repeated, because you already have the job. Her breath vanished. What? I built this company on resilience, he said steadily. Not perfection. You showed more strength boarding that flight than most candidates show in a lifetime. Tears streamed down her face. I don't even know what to say. Say yes. She laughed through her tears. Yes, of course, yes. There's more, he added. Her heart skipped again. The assistant position is entry level. But I believe you're capable of more. She stared at him. I'd like to place you in our executive mentorship program. Flexible hours. On-site childcare. She nearly dropped Noah. Childcare. Yes. She shook her head in disbelief. I can't afford that. You won't need to. Silence. Then he extended his hand. Welcome to Hayes Global, Emily. She hesitated only a moment before shaking it. Her life had changed on a flight she almost didn't board. As she left the building hours later, paperwork signed, future secured, she stepped into the sunlight holding Noah close. Her phone buzzed. An email. Subject line. Welcome to the team. She smiled down at her son. We did it, she whispered. Across the street, Daniel watched from his office window. Not with pride. Not with satisfaction. But with quiet certainty. Sometimes, the strongest partnerships begin not in boardrooms, but in moments of compassion. And neither of them would ever forget the flight where a tired mother fell asleep and woke up to a new life.